What would you do if a single moment of kindness cost you everything? Natalie Reyes never expected her world to turn upside down because she smiled at a stranger. She didn't know that the man in the scuffed leather jacket, the one everyone else ignored, was actually the owner of the luxury car dealership where she worked. And she definitely didn't know that her quiet act of decency would ignite a storm that would expose lies, reveal hidden power, and force everyone around her to choose a side. This is not just a story about a woman who was fired for doing the right thing. It's a story about how one person's humanity can shake an entire system built on ego, greed, and image. Every day, Natalie walked into Orion Auto House, a glittering showroom of chrome, luxury, and silent competition, invisible. Her name tag sparkled, but no one ever looked at it. Her shoes were polished, her smile was flawless, her knowledge of every car on the floor unmatched. And yet, to her co-workers, she was just background noise, the kind of person no one claps. For when a sale goes through, the only place Natalie was ever truly seen was at home. By her aging grandmother, whose memory was fading, but whose love was constant. Natalie was her caretaker, her anchor, her reason to keep going when work drained every ounce of her energy. But the dealership? That place belonged to louder voices. People like Jenna, the platinum blonde who sold cars like they were weapons, and Brent, her sidekick, who found joy in belittling others just to be seen laughing. Natalie stayed quiet until he walked in. A man in a weathered leather jacket, no watch, no jewelry, no entitlement. Just a calm, quiet presence, and eyes that seemed to see everything. Nobody else even looked at him, but Natalie did. And when she asked, "Can I help? You?" She had no idea that question would be the spark that burned the old world down, because the man she helped wasn't just browsing, he owned the company, and her kindness? It wasn't just noticed, it was remembered. What followed was betrayal, humiliation, and a firing that left Natalie shaken, but not broken. Because what they didn't know was this. They had just fired the wrong woman, and the man in the leather jacket, he was just getting started. The morning had started like every other one at Orion Auto House. Natalie Reyes was the first to arrive, as always. She slipped through the glass doors just after sunrise, her steps silent against the polished marble floor. She headed straight to the lounge, cleaned the coffee machine until it gleamed, arranged the glossy brochures with practiced hands, and wiped down every SUV on the floor until not even a fingerprint remained. Nobody noticed. Nobody ever did. By 10 o'clock, the showroom was awake. Heels clicked across marble tiles like applause. Salespeople laughed too loudly, their voices echoing off the chrome and glass. It was a parade of power suits, luxury colognes, and egos on full display. Jenna and Brent were already in the middle of a dramatic pitch to a couple in designer jackets, their hands gesturing wildly as they circled a luxury coupe like it was prey. Natalie stood near the electric sedans, her station, quietly observing, calculating how long it would be before someone noticed she existed today. She already knew the answer. "Morning, ghost girl," Brent called as he strolled past, voice loud enough for the entire floor to hear. Jenna snorted without looking up. "Careful," she said, her voice dripping with mockery. "Don't spook her. She might disappear and take her $5 commission with her." Natalie didn't flinch. Invisibility had become armor, and that armor, it had never failed her, until today. Because that was when the door opened. He stepped through like he didn't belong. Like he didn't care that he didn't belong. The city light framed him from behind, casting his silhouette in gold. A scuffed black leather jacket clung to his lean frame. His jeans were worn, not distressed like some overpriced fashion statement, but truly worn, the kind of wear that came from real life. No Rolex, no designer loafers, just quiet confidence. Jenna didn't glance up. Brent didn't even pause scrolling on his phone. But Natalie looked, and when their eyes met, Something passed between them. Something small, unspoken. A flicker of connection. Recognition, even, though she couldn't have explained why. The man took in the showroom slowly, his eyes scanning the space with a kind of calm that was rare in this world. He didn't walk with the rushed intensity of a buyer. He wasn't here to impress. He was just there, present, observing. Natalie stepped forward. "Good morning," she said with a warm, deliberate smile. "Welcome to Orion Auto House. Is there anything I can help you with?" The man looked at her, really looked, as if she was the first person he had seen all day. "Thanks," he said. "I'm just browsing for now." His voice was soft, measured. There was no need to dominate the room with it, and yet it commanded attention. Across the showroom, Jenna shot a look their way and rolled her eyes. "Natalie, if you're done playing tour guide for the window shoppers, I could use a hand with real buyers," she said, her voice sharp enough to draw blood. Natalie paused for a heartbeat. Then she turned back to the man. "We've got a new hybrid model in," she said, ignoring Jenna entirely. "Would you like to take a look?" The man's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, but close. "I'd like that." As they walked together toward the display, Brent called out from behind, "Better show him where we keep the used tires too. Never know what you're working with." Natalie didn't respond, but her steps became more purposeful, straighter. She wasn't going to let them embarrass her, not in front of him. The man moved beside her, his eyes still drifting over the showroom. "You always treat people like this?" he asked. "Like what?" she asked, blinking. "Like they matter." Natalie hesitated for just a second, then she nodded. "Doesn't everyone?" The man looked straight ahead. "No," he said, "but they should." Neither of them realized it then. But that quiet moment, it would be the crack in the wall, the one that let the truth flood in. Because she hadn't helped him because he was rich, or powerful, or famous. She helped him because he looked like someone who deserved to be treated like a person. And that, right there, was the beginning of everything. Natalie Reyes woke up the next morning with a strange feeling in her chest. It wasn't fear, not exactly, but something different. Maybe it was the way that stranger had looked at her. Not with judgment, not like she was invisible, but like she mattered, like he saw her. Not as a number on a commission chart, but as a human being. It was such a rare thing in her world. It lingered with her into the next day like the memory of sunlight. She kissed her grandmother on the forehead before leaving, whispered promises she wasn't sure she could keep, and hurried back to the glass and steel world of Orion Auto House. By 9:02 a.m., she was back under the showroom's cold lights. Everything looked the same. Jenna was laughing too loudly near the espresso bar. Brent was hunched over a desk, smirking as he tapped away at something on his phone. But something was off. The air felt heavier, like a storm was coming. Then she heard it. Reyes. Office. Now. Carl's voice. The general manager, Natalie, turned. Carl stood inside his glass-walled office, like a warden calling in an inmate. His arms were crossed, his face unreadable. She didn't panic, not at first. Maybe it was a client complaint. Maybe Jenna had twisted something again. It wouldn't be the first time. But the second she stepped inside, she knew this wasn't a meeting. The air smelled like cologne and finality. On the desk sat a single manila folder. Her name was printed on the front in bold black ink. Carl didn't invite her to sit. He didn't look up. "We've been reviewing team performance and culture," he said flatly. "And after some careful consideration, we've decided to make staffing adjustments." Natalie blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" Carl finally looked at her, and in his eyes there was no empathy, just boredom, like this was just another Tuesday. "Effective immediately," he said. "You're being let go." The words hit like a punch to the chest. What? Why?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I helped a customer. I was just doing my job." What did I do wrong? Carl shrugged. That kind of shrug that says everything and nothing. Your energy doesn't align with Orion's brand, he said. It's not personal. Not personal. Natalie's hands trembled. She thought of the rent, her grandmother's medication, the insurance bill due Friday. She had done everything right. She had never been late. She had covered extra shifts, cleaned, up after Jenna, endured Brent's comments. And now this. She stared at Carl, trying to find a crack in his mask. Something human. But there was nothing. I'm sure you'll find something more your style, he added with a chuckle. Maybe non-profit work. That was the final slap. The dismissal. The way men like him laughed at compassion, like it was weakness. Natalie didn't cry. She wouldn't give them that. She just turned, walked out of the office, and crossed the showroom floor with her head high. Brent gave her a mock salute as she passed. Jenna didn't even bother looking up from her phone. The cold wind hit her, like a slap as she stepped outside. She clutched her coat tighter and kept walking. She didn't look back. But deep in her chest, something shifted, something broke, and something else, harder, sharper, began to form. They had just fired the wrong woman. The lights were off. The apartment was quiet, save for the soft, rhythmic wheeze of the oxygen machine beside her grandmother's bed. Natalie sat curled on the worn couch, still in her work clothes, her coat draped over a kitchen chair, her shoes still on. The silence was deafening. She hadn't spoken since she walked out of Orion Auto House. She couldn't, not even when her grandmother asked how work was. Natalie had smiled, lied. Just another Monday. And ladled soup into a bowl she couldn't eat. She stared at her phone now, a dozen unread emails. None of them mattered. Her final paycheck wouldn't cover rent. The insurance for her. Grandmother's medication was due in 8 days. She had no plan, no leverage, no idea what tomorrow looked like. Then the phone buzzed. 42 p.m., unknown number. She stared at the screen. Probably spam, or worse, a debt collector. She was about to let it ring out, but something in her gut whispered, "Answer it." Her thumb slid across the screen. "Hello?" There was a pause, then a voice, calm, measured. "Natalie Reyes." She sat up straighter. "Yes, who is this?" "You helped me yesterday," the voice said. "At Orion Auto House." Her breath caught in her throat. "That was you?" she whispered. "I didn't introduce myself properly," the man said. "My name is Justin. Justin Bieber." Silence. Not because she didn't know the name, but because it made no sense. Justin Bieber? The Justin Bieber? She let out a stunned, awkward laugh. I'm sorry. Is this a prank?" "It's not," he said gently. "I wouldn't blame you for thinking it is, but I need 5 minutes of your time. Is that okay?" Natalie glanced toward the bedroom where her grandmother slept. She hesitated. "Okay," she said softly. "I'm one of the primary investors behind Orion Auto House," he said. "I visit locations unannounced to see how they really operate. No PR team, no heads up, just raw observation." Natalie didn't speak. "What I saw yesterday," he continued, "was everything I needed to see. Not the luxury cars, not the numbers, the people, how they treat each other when they think no one is watching." He paused. "You were the only one who treated me like a human being. Not because you knew who I was, because that's just who you are." Natalie swallowed hard. "I want to meet with you," Justin said. "Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. There's a cafe downtown called Nova's, corner of Richmond and 7th. I'd like to make you an offer." "An offer?" she echoed, dazed. "Not as a salesperson," he said. "As a leader." Natalie stared at the shadows on the wall, still holding the phone like it might disappear. "Okay," she said, barely above a whisper. "Good," Justin said. I'll see you then. The line went dead. Natalie slowly lowered the phone, her pulse pounding in her throat. In the stillness, something stirred in her chest. Hope, jagged, unfamiliar, but real. She wasn't sure she believed it yet, but one thing was certain. Tomorrow, she wouldn't be walking into a dealership to beg for her job back. Tomorrow, she'd be walking in to take control of the game. The glass doors of Orion Auto House slid open at exactly 9:58 a.m. Natalie Reyes stepped through them, not as a shadow, not as a background character in someone else's story, but as a woman reborn. Her navy blue blazer hugged her shoulders perfectly. The gold nameplate on her chest gleamed under the lights. Natalie Reyes, General Manager. The marble floor beneath her echoed with each deliberate step. Around her, the world paused. Jenna, leaning against the reception counter mid-laugh, froze when she looked up. Brent, sipping a too-expensive latte, nearly choked on the foam. Natalie didn't stop. She walked with purpose, every click of her heel a punctuation mark. For the first time, people were watching her not with mockery, but with confusion, uncertainty, fear. She welcomed it. Halfway across the showroom, Carl emerged from his office, clipboard in hand, tie slightly askew. He froze when he saw her. "Reyes," he barked, voice hard with disbelief. "What the hell do you think you're doing here?" Natalie turned to face him, calm and composed. "I believe I work here," she said. Carl's face twisted. "As of yesterday, you were terminated," he snapped. "You do not walk in here acting like..." "Like what?" a calm voice interrupted. Every head turned. Justin Bieber stood just inside the entrance, dressed in all black, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Carl's face drained of color. "Mr. Bieber," he began, stumbling over his words. "You don't need to speak to me, Carl," Justin said, stepping forward. "Because I'm not here to hear you out." He turned to Natalie. "How would you like to handle this?" Natalie didn't hesitate. "This dealership deserves better," she said clearly. "Better leadership, better values, better people." She turned to Carl. Her eyes were ice. "You're fired, effective immediately." Carl's mouth fell open. He looked around, desperate for backup. There was none. His shoulders squared, as if he was going to argue. But Justin stepped forward again. Just one step. "No arguments," he said softly. "You mismanaged staff. You allowed abuse. You failed the culture. Consider this your exit." Carl clenched his jaw. Then, without another word, he threw the clipboard onto a desk and stormed out. The glass doors shuddered behind him. Silence followed. Jenna and Brent stood frozen. Natalie exhaled once. A couple of junior reps straightened in their seats. One even offered a nervous smile. The tide had shifted. Natalie turned to face her former peers, now her team. Jenna spoke first. "What is this?" she demanded. "Some kind of joke?" "It's called a promotion," Natalie said, her voice calm. Brent gave a weak, awkward laugh. "You're kidding, right? This is a prank. Carl will fix this in 2 seconds." "Carl's gone," Justin said simply. And with that, the floor fell away from everything they had known. Natalie stepped up, scanning the room. Not with vengeance, but with vision. "I know what this place has become," she said. "I've lived it. The whispers, the sabotage, the fear." She let her gaze settle on Jenna and Brent. "That ends today." Jenna rolled her eyes. "You can't just erase us." Natalie smiled. Not cruelly, but firmly. "I'm not erasing you," she said. "I'm removing what no longer serves the mission." Justin stepped beside her. "And I stand behind that." Jenna's jaw tightened. Brent swallowed hard. Neither of them said a word. Natalie turned back to the staff. "This is your line in the sand," she said. "We move forward with respect, integrity, and results. If you can't live with that, there's the door. No one moved, but the energy in the room had changed. The fear was gone. In its place, something powerful. Respect. Justin leaned in and asked quietly, "You ready?" Natalie nodded, eyes steady. "I've been ready." And with that, Natalie Reyes, once invisible, once expendable, took her place at the helm of the very empire that tried to erase her. But this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. For the first 3 days, it felt almost like respect. No sarcastic comments, no rolling eyes, no cheap shots in passing. Jenna was distant, but civil. Brent kept his head down, typing furiously at his desk. A few junior reps even started saying, "Good morning," something Natalie had almost forgotten how to hear. It wasn't trust, but it was quiet. She took it as a win. After all, she'd gone from ghost girl to general manager overnight. Some awkwardness was inevitable. But by the end of the week, things began to rot. It started small. A missing document, a financing contract for a luxury SUV that Natalie had personally reviewed the night before. Gone. Not in the system. Not in the backups. Just vanished. She had to apologize to the client in person. Her cheeks burned as the man shook his head and walked out. Then came the price errors. Twice in one afternoon, customers were quoted incorrect lease rates. Once, it was a $200 difference. The second time, a client nearly signed off on a contract that would have cost her thousands over the term. Natalie started staying late. She double-checked every deal. She stopped eating lunch. But the pattern only grew. Wrong forms. Deleted emails. Client follow-ups mysteriously marked completed when they weren't. Sloppy in some places. Clever in others. It wasn't just coincidence anymore. Someone was sabotaging her, and not just to get under her skin, to break her. Late Friday evening, the showroom was nearly dark. Rain tapped against the tall windows like whispered warnings. Natalie sat at her desk, eyes locked on the transaction logs. Then, finally, a break. Brent's user activity. Multiple late-night logins, manual overrides, access to client notes after hours. Her stomach turned. Brent. The same Brent who used to mock her commission checks. The same Brent who hadn't made a peep since her return. But it didn't feel like his plan. The sloppiness was his, sure, but the coordination, the depth. This wasn't just Brent. It had Jenna's fingerprints all over it. And then, a darker thought crept in. Carl. She had fired him in front of the entire staff, humiliated him, stripped him of power with Justin watching. What if he hadn't let go? What if he was still pulling strings from the outside? Natalie leaned back, staring at the ceiling. For the first time since walking back through those doors, she felt afraid. Not because she couldn't handle sabotage, but because this wasn't just about her anymore. She was building something. Real culture. Real change. A team that could thrive. And someone out there would rather burn it down than let her succeed. She shut the laptop, stood slowly, and turned off the lights. Tomorrow she would confront Brent, and she wouldn't be walking in, asking questions. She'd be walking in with proof. 3 weeks after Jenna's downfall, Orion Auto House no longer felt like the same place. Gone were the whispers behind closed doors, the fake smiles, the sabotage. The air had shifted, lighter, cleaner, real. Staff began to stay late. Not because they feared being watched, but because they cared. Customers noticed it too. A warmth in the way they were greeted, a sincerity that hadn't existed before. Natalie no longer needed to walk with armor on her shoulders. She walked as herself, and that was enough. Every Friday, laughter now echoed from the espresso bar. Not gossip or dominance, but joy. Collaboration. Belonging. Still, she never let her guard down completely. Carl had vanished. His name hadn't come up since that Monday, but Natalie could feel him like a shadow beneath the door. Watching, waiting. So she stayed sharp, kept the culture strong, built people up before cracks could form again. Justin, who had quietly continued mentoring her, now met with her twice a week. Their meetings weren't about numbers. They were about vision, people, integrity. And then one day, it came. A proposal. Not for a dealership, not even a district, but for an entire region. 5 stores, 3 states, complete operational control. Natalie stared at the offer for a long time. Her salary would quadruple. She'd be able to relocate her grandmother to better care. She'd have the power to not just run a business, but to redefine what leadership looked like across the company. When Justin walked into her office that afternoon, he didn't speak right away. He simply asked, "Do you believe in yourself yet?" She smiled, slow and sure. "I do." And just like that, the girl who once made coffee for others without thanks now had the keys to the empire. But this wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of something bigger. Because Natalie Reyes didn't just survive, she rewrote the rules. Sometimes all it takes is one act of kindness, one moment of courage, one person who refuses to disappear. And in a world that rewards arrogance, sometimes the quiet ones are the ones who rise the highest. If this story moved you, leave a like, drop a comment, and tell us. Have you ever seen someone rise from nothing because they chose to do the right thing? And don't forget to subscribe, because in the next episode, Natalie faces a threat even bigger than Carl. A secret from Justin's past is about to come to light, and it could destroy everything they've built to be continued.